Hey folks, this is Tolly and welcome to some more game dev. We took a quick half an hour break. We are back, continuing right from where we left off in the previous stream. Just a bit of a recap for folks. We were kind of stuck on trying to get the inverse corner parts of the walls working. So essentially, if we came into the scene and we were to click on one of these locations, change it to be a inverse corner and then raise it up a bit so it's a little more visible. If we take this object and we try and rotate it like we have been doing for the walls, so for example, if we click on, say, this wall piece here, change its direction, we are able to rotate it kind of to whichever facing we want. And that seemed pretty perfect in a lot of ways. But when it comes to these inverse corner walls, what we found was when we try and rotate it, north and west are the same. And if we change it to east and south, they also come back as the same. And so we did a bit of kind of like messing around in here to try and see if we could figure out what was going on. So if we change these values to like 0 and then slowly rotate up to 90, we can see that it's like switching which pixels it's choosing. But when we get all the way back up to 90, it like essentially snaps back into existence, but it snaps back into existence facing the other way on the exact opposite side. And if we rotate it again, it will then do the top one again. And we can see it's basically choosing between this one and this one. And so as we rotate, it's either starting here on this front piece, right here, and then when we rotate, it then moves that front piece to be up top at that 90 point. So it's actually alternated to this one. And if we rotate again, it switches to this one. And then if we rotate one more time, it ends up choosing this position here at 270. And so that's not what we want. We want it to work like the walls. And what we realized was these ones here are actually kind of tricky to the eye, and then in reality, even though we're rotating this, you would think that what we're changing is the top of it. When we rotate this 90 degrees, it looks like it's flipped up to here, but what's actually happening is the same thing. We're now, instead of displaying this one, it's now displaying this one on this side. And then when we rotate again, it's actually alternated to the opposite side over here. And when we rotate one more time, it then alternates back to this one. So it's essentially switching between the two images, but because the images are mirrors of each other, we don't notice that it's not rotating the way that we would like. So that's interesting. But when we tried to see if there was a way to kind of get that to work correctly with this one over here, the inverse one, we did a bunch of digging, we tried tiling it, we tried looking at the actual image choices themselves to see if there was like a way of like alternating the pixels in a certain way that wasn't this exact lattice structure, and if we tried tiling, maybe we could offset to that, but none of that was working. But while I took my lunch break, I had a realization, and it's a pretty obvious one. I was thinking about these tiles, and I was thinking specifically about how we drew, let's open it up. This one? Nope. We drew the corner, not the inverse corner, but we drew a corner work in progress, and then we drew a alt work in progress, because we were trying to just move forward and try different versions to see what would happen with like another corner variation that has more detail than the original walls. And what I realized when I was thinking about it over lunch is this image is not a rotation of this image. Like, these are two completely different images. They're both on that isometric tile, but they are laid out very differently. And then I got to thinking about, well, what does the inverse corner look like? If we take that one and we draw that out, and if this is the original, it also would have to have a different look to it, because these bottom ones have 4 pixels and obviously these ones only have 2. So no matter what, we're going to have a different image. We're just going to have a different image. When we go to display it, they're not transformable. You cannot convert this image to look like this image just by rotating it or trying to flip it or any other kind of transformation. They're different images. Therefore, I will always need a different image at some point. And this was not true of the walls, which we started with, which gave us this false sense of like, oh my God, just, alternating the art over top of each other will just work. But for these ones, this image versus a rotated version of it, if you think about rotating this one around, it's kind of basically still a flip. It's just flipping it horizontally when we rotate it, quote unquote. So this is a transformable image, which is why we were able to manipulate it in such a way that it actually was able to be rotated with a single variation. But for these ones, because they are different depending on where you place them, that means that they are not transformable. So that got me thinking, well, the problem was that the alternated image that we put in, we overlapped the lattices of these two images. We were essentially taking the one image, flipping it, and then overlaying it so the two lattice images kind of created this more complex pattern. But if we have the same image and we want to alternate between the two lattice structures, but no matter how you try and transform, the two images aren't ever going to become the alternate form, then what if we lattice the two different images? So if we come back into Aseprite and we take a look at this thing here, if I was to undo, this is the lattice structure for one of these two walls. Let's see if we can figure out which one. I believe this is the lattice structure for the top one, because it has 2 green, then a kind of block of 6, and then a block of the gray. Whereas this one has 4 green instead. I guess, yeah, this is 6 pixels. This other one's 4. So I'm seeing 6 pixels, and if we go to this version, this one only has 4. So they're 2 different images. But if we take the 2 images and we overlap them on top of each other, and then do our flip so that they overlap, now we have them in alternating corners, but they're 2 different images overlaid each other. And that does work. So if we look at this version here, this is one that I brought in between eating, because I had to test it. I was so excited to figure out that okay, there is a solution. It's just not doable with a single PNG. But if we start at 0, that's here. If we go to 90, that kind of goes the opposite way that we would expect, but it's fine. Then we go to 180, it comes up to this one, and then we go to 270, and now it's over here. So we do need 2 images to be drawn, but for the engine, we can compress the 2 images into one lattice structure and still have a single image that we rotate at the end of the day. So the engine can operate the same way. We can simply just give this thing essentially a north, south, east, west position to it, and that'll still allow us to change the orientation of this device. It's not doing it here, but am I selecting the right one? Because it does work if I do it manually. Well, that's not the object to move. Oh, it regenerates the object. So it's going back to the original prefab. So each time I was changing north, south, east, west, it was not just rotating it, it was also deleting and re-adding the old texture. So that's why that wasn't working. But I can now get away with having the code all operate the same, but we will need to do some sort of art compression where Drixie will need to make 2 images, and then we'll need to splice them together into one image that we actually use for the prop for inverse corners. I am ecstatic that we were able to solve that. I felt like when we finished the last stream, I was completely lost and unsure how to move forward, but I really wanted to solve this, and it was just that, you know, walking away for a moment, it just all clicked in. So we have made a lot of kind of garbage sprites in here. Let's try and clean all this up, because we now know what we're doing. So we're going to have walls, and we're going to put the walls under the Demon Castle folder. And we need a... Let's copy this wall test 2, and let's rename this to wall top I guess this is kind of like the default. Single face? It's a little bit of a weird name for this one. We can just go with... Well, the problem is whatever we choose is pretty permanent, because a lot of our stuff is based off of the name of this sprite, and it'll generate prefabs and it'll generate addressable IDs. So we do need to kind of come up with a pretty good naming convention for this. I think we can just leave this as top, and then we can get more specific. So if we ever have like inverted versions and stuff, or like multi-sided ones, we can come back to this, or we just go look at what we did for the old tile system for Heir of Embers, because we did have a naming convention here. Each one had a name associated with it, or a cardinal direction. So east face, north, south. So I think we default this one to north. So we can call this work in progress wall north top. It's a little weird because in the old system, the walls were just one unit, but for us, we kind of broken them up into like billboards for the front halves and the back. So I think we just go with wall north top work in progress. I think I like this a little bit better. Wall top north work in progress. Okay, and if we wanted to, we could have an alternated version of this, but this one should be fine on its own. Then we need the combined version of these two. So we're going to grab both of these, inverse corner, and then we're going to have alt as well. Those all go into here. And then we want to grab the corner variations. So wall corner. Oh, sorry. We want these ones. No, I was right the first time. Wall corner. Wall corner. My confusion is that the inverse ones I got rid of the word wall, and that's because I don't want it to do the logic of flipping them for me. So we just need this one and this one. These two. Okay. Cool. Now, I think we can clean up all these other variations and delete them. Let's leave them for now, just while I get everything set up. So we have corner and alt corner. Probably better to have like a different naming scheme for this. We can probably have corner north and corner west. My problem with this is I'm not 100% sure if my north, south, east is correct and corresponding to other parts of the engine. Okay. Let's switch up the background music. Sure. What are heroes' facings? That's probably an okay reference point. Let's go up to characters. Hero, hero, formatted ace right. Hero has northwest, which is facing up this way, and southwest. Okay. So by that logic, this corner piece is facing both north and west. So this is a northwest corner piece under the new Infinite Retries naming convention. And this is a southwest facing, is that right? This, it's facing down this way. This is facing up this way. So under this naming convention, this is definitely west. I feel like the one of the corners is more facing this way though. It's weird because they're kind of on a different kind of setup. So I think this is north and south and west. They're under two different coordinates. Tricky. Naming is the hardest part. We could just go with corner and alternate. I don't love that though. Maybe that's fine. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing here. Let's delete final and this final. And we're going to have inverse corner, and then we'll have inverse corner alt. Okay, and this will just be wall top. I can get behind that. Let's run the processor on those files. That should have generated some stuff, but it did not. I think this system is breaking on one of these, and I'm not sure which and why. But I think it's erroring on one of these finals, because it's only after I delete some of them that it actually imports everything. Yeah, it didn't get past this one. Okay. Something here is breaking. I'm going to decide to fix this with the backup folder I have up there. So we're going to collapse fields. We're going to open up prop sprites. We're going to grab everything out of here except for the lava rug. We're going to drag all of that up into this backup folder so that we just get rid of all the old versions. Okay. Okay, now that worked. I'm gonna have to dig into that, because that's another thing that's probably gonna cause issues for Drixie, because I don't know if she's gonna realize to like do all this kind of trial and error debugging stuff on the spot. The tools should work consistently, so we will have to dig into why the tool is inconsistent with its running. There must be some sort of error. Because it's running through a console app, it's not easy to get kind of information about what's going on. Now, what's truly tricky here is we're going to want to have some of these not be used. Let's open up a couple of these files, because we're going to need to create custom variations of some of these for the time being. So this is the corner final, and we should be able to open up corner final alternate as well. So come back up into here, go to dungeons, props, sprites, demon castle, walls, corner alt final. And with these two versions, one should be facing this way and the other one should be... Oh, do they still have wall in the name? They do not. Okay, so they should be a simple lattice structure. They are not. All of these are too complicated. So these are only supposed to create the inverted versions of the textures if they have the word wall in their name. Oh, it's seeing the word wall in the... It's seeing the word wall in the directory name. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. Okay. Well, that's a bug. So let's see how this works. Actually, probably faster if we just go here and then look for references. If file name contains work in progress, or if file name contains wall, this probably doesn't have the idea of specifically the last name in the file. This is just looking at the full file name path. So if any of the directories contain wall, it will also trigger, which is not what we want. So I think we want to do this split dot last and process this information on that alone. So up here it should be filename dot split dot last entry dot contains wall. And then we'll rebuild the console app and then come back into here. Run props. We're going to need to delete all of these, I guess. We shouldn't need this one here. In fact, why was that not be... I maybe shouldn't delete that. I probably should drag that up to backup, but it should be the same as one of these down here. Okay, so this should made... Okay, yeah, that fixed the bug. So now we're going to be able to reopen these files. Let's close down this corner one and this corner one and reopen recent, corner final, recent, corner final, alt. And then we're going to grab one of these, paste it over top of this one, and then flip horizontally. Is that good enough? That might be what we're looking for. And then we're going to save as, and we're going to call this corner final fusion. With these two fused together. All right. Now, I want to test this image we've made before we generate any of the props. Ooh, interesting. Actually, that makes sense. So all of the old walls are no longer found. We deleted a lot of the images, so they're broken looking. Well, let's come in here and click on 510. Change this to be, let's just say wall test at height 30. And then we will open up that wall test and change its image to the corner fusion we just made. Okay. We do need to change its offset, or its pivot, I should say. Alright, and then if we rotate this object here by 90, that comes forward. Let's move hero out of the way so that the UI isn't covering this. So we started at this direction. 90 brings us down forward. 180 flips it, and 270 points up. Okay, so this is a correctly fused image. The order matters a little bit though here. So when we fuse them such that this is our default image. If we bring in the inverse corner version, the default image is pointing down. So I think I might want to go the other way then. We might want to grab this one, paste this one over here, and then rotate this one this way. I think orientation may matter in a couple of different ways. Let's try that. Let's swap this back to the corner fusion. And now bottom is this way. Then we go 90. Not here, but on the actual object part here. 90. Points away. 180. Points up. 270 points that way. So it rotates kind of a weird way around. I would expect it to go clockwise, not counterclockwise, but I think that's still okay. So now we have this correct fusion and this correct fusion. I think I would like to delete the generated versions. I think long term, what I'd like to do is have some sort of naming convention for these corners, that if they have the same name but with like Alt 1 and Alt 2 or something, that my tooling actually finds both images and then tries to like convert them both to the pixel variation with the lattice structure, and then overlay one of the images onto the other flipped, so that it kind of constructs what we're doing in Aseprite for us. But that requires a fair amount of extra logic inside of the console app, because instead of searching through every single file, grabbing the file and just immediately doing operations on it, we're going to need to have some form of like parse through all the files in this folder and see if any of them are pairs, and if any of them are pairs, operate on them together and separately, and don't do the normal operations for them. That shouldn't be too bad to build, but we're not doing that right now because debugging the console app is kind of annoying and a lot of trial and error because it's hard to process it and debug it. So we're going to just do that off camera. Cool. So for now though, we're going to just delete the other versions we don't need, because we can always regenerate them, and we'll keep the fusion variations. Okay. Now, if we go into sprites to props and we process this, we should generate a bunch of prefabs. However, We want to delete all the old ones. We want to delete this one and this one, because the system doesn't have a way of knowing which ones you've deleted in the other folders, so it does require a bit of hand tuning. Does this need the word fusion in it at this point? I guess it needed it because originally I had a different inverse corner final. So if we don't have some sort of extra kind of term here, it does mean that it will get stomped if we ever run the room processor on props. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go through each of these different props in this scene. We're going to go full, go into this mode, go perspective mode, and we're going to clear, I think. We're going to clear, we're going to populate everything. We're going to have some wall variation versions. We're going to generate all the individual pieces here, and we're going to rebuild these walls and see how long that takes. So we're going to need a corner piece here. This is going to be a normal corner. Not entirely sure on the perspective. I wonder if it's possible to get a camera in here. This has the virtual camera, which has everything set up. So if I just add a Cinemachine camera brain in here, would that just work? Save the scene. Let's go over to our core global scene. If we just... Is the camera in here? Oh, it's not. It's actually in the front end because of some of the front end logic hookup. Core, front end, main camera. Copy this object. Let's just go back into Dungeons. Go in here. Oh, we still don't get a display here, even with there being a camera. No camera. Okay. What if we just create a new camera? Okay. And what if we copy the transform? Paste that in here. Okay. And then we have to grab some values here for orthographic, sizing. Ooh, this one I can drag around too. Okay, so if we come into here, was I clicking on the wrong one a moment ago? Weird. I'm not sure what was going on there. I feel like this should have been updating, but it was not. So that's corner. That's where I wanted that positioned. Good. It's just hard to see the latticed walls without some sort of setup. Ooh, all of these are set up with inverse. So these should be wall tops. Yeah, why are all of these pre-set up? That's a bit odd. I think it may have broke because the indices got removed or changed. That's interesting. Oh, I thought I cleared all this. Didn't I start by clearing everything? Was that during play mode, maybe? Oh, that might have been during play. Okay, cool. So let's try this again. So we're going to go fence, and we're going to go wall side, and we're going to go wall side. Ooh, I guess we want to do... If we're going to redo all this from scratch, we probably also want to move the wall sides into the wall section. Going to be somewhat descriptive with these names, and then we'll also have this one in here as well, and this will be 20 wall 2 brick. Cool. Then we should be able to delete these ones. We can now delete these assets. Then we can run the sprite folders to props again. That'll generate these 2 new objects for us. We can come back into here. We can clear. We can populate. We can generate. And now we can start manipulating these for realsies this time. So we're going to do 30 bricks. 30 bricks. And then we're going to multi-select a couple of these. It should update them. Ooh, it cleared the wrong way round. Let's try multi-selecting and then changing them all at the same time. Walls, 3 brick. Walls, 3 brick. Yeah, it's just not updating. So the multi-selecting does seem to work somewhat. It just doesn't call update on it until you actually re-click it again. Let's try that again. So we'll click on each of these. And then we will choose wall top for each of them. Oh, that's interesting. I can more quickly cause that to happen by just kind of tabbing through them. If we go 30 high, this one we weren't seeing this value come across though. For whatever reason, the drop downs work, but the pixel editing does not. Okay, so that gets all those tiles at the top. For this one, we don't actually want this. We want a corner piece, like so. And then for this one, we want a inverse corner piece, like so. Okay, then we can select all of these ones. And we can do walls 30, walls 30. And then if we just click on each one, it should regenerate them. Okay. Perfect. Now we can come into here and we can do wall top for each of these. So again, we should be able to do that. Wall top. And I think each of these are west facing. See if those update. Right, I'm not going to be able to see them until I actually raise them up. It does not look like the facing drop-down multi-edits either. Only the detail options. Interesting. So something about the way that I've set that up is different. Okay. So this is feeling too tedious to me. I don't think this is a long-term viable way of creating walls, because it just feels like a lot of individual clicks for what should be a mostly automatable process. Okay. And then this one is west, I believe. Yes. If I could multi-click more easily, like if the multi-editing was working correctly, this would be much easier though. It would be a fair point. Because then I could just select all of these and just be like, I would like all of these to be west. And then if they all just updated, that would be great. Okay. So if we put that under the room and then raycast it, we should have all those lined up with better names. Yep. Those are walls. Those are walls. Holy smokes. Okay, so that only took 2 days. I'm happy with that. Whoa. I think the mixer's okay. Let me know if my volume broke, but I'm gonna hydrate for a second here. Okay. So... Cool. Water bottle hit the mixer. I didn't think it hit any of the gain volumes, but thank you for letting me know. Okay, I think the walls themselves don't look great. They're from a very different looking game, meant to be like a sewer space. It definitely doesn't feel Demon Lord. I feel like being adventurous, so we're gonna try changing their colors. And then Drixie can yell at us later for it. What's tricky about doing this, let's close down all of these files. I don't think we need to save any of these at this point. That should be fine. We're going to want to grab essentially the final variations. Because my tooling doesn't auto-generate the props as well as it should right now, if we want to change the colors, we need to change the fusion variations of them. We also need something to change the colors too. So let's open the Dungeons Demon Castle final. Hard to see. Open work in progress. Perfect. Load palette. I believe Trixie checked in the color palettes. Perfect. And I'm gonna just check. These are not in here yet, but the closest colors all seem to be... That's there. That one doesn't exist. There's nothing close. Okay, but the main set of colors are kind of in this area. So if we were to grab, maybe we just start with the wall piece that we're going to be using and figure out the colors, and then we'll update everything else off of that. Let's go into props, sprites, demon castle, walls. Let's open the brick wall. So this has a lot of greens. It's actually several different colors here. I think we probably want to go with something. Also, we should probably save as default so that we can load as default. I'm picking up a couple of things here and there from watching Trixie work. It was in here somewhere, these colors? Yeah. And then this is the lighter tone. Do this color. Do this color. Can go darker with this one. And then darkest with maybe one of these. And then maybe these ones should just be simplified out. That's 3 colors. Most of our trees and stuff, I think we ended up with 4, so we could try this. This, I'm not sure whether or not we should be doing a different color for, but let's do a darker color there. And then the tops, I suppose we can try and do something else. Not sure what we should do for the top of these. That's where it like transitioned into more of a tan color, but that was more because of the castle. I think Trixie wanted to have more purples. That's probably too dark. So I think it's probably we go with something like this. But that means we need to kind of figure out those same colors here. Load default palette. So which one's mapped where? This color became this color, and the dark green became this color. So we can try that. Yes. Open. Let's open the fusion for this one. So this one's going to be dark for these ones and more of a light purple for the other ones. Save that one out. Then we can open the final wall top. This one becomes that. This one becomes that color, which is very similar. Oh, I think I grabbed the wrong one, that's why. That feels like it's disappearing more than this one did. Yeah, this color's too similar to the top of the walls, I feel like. Interesting. I guess we can go with this instead. That also just fades right away. Well, this is not my expertise. I just want to get them at least close to the same colors as the floor. Save, 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 and then we can open oh, I guess that's it. We just have the corner, the inverse corner, and the top, and because of the way we're doing the walls, the brick wall just is the brick wall. We don't really convert this, so that is complete. And then we just need to do the 2 brick one, which realistically should just be some of this. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so for the corners, those went too dark. We ended up replacing the colors completely on this one, when we meant to do those ones, I think. They're so similar we chose the wrong one to replace. That fixed the inverse, but it didn't fix the corner ones. Okay. So that at least feels more in the same room, but yeah, the purples don't look very good at all. Alright, well, let's just fix that then. So if we come into here, this purple was a bad choice. But that's because there isn't really a great choice to replace the tan option we already had. See what that looks like. No, too bright. Too similar. It's kind of more muted. Somewhere more in between, maybe. I still don't love it. Sure, that doesn't look great at all. I think it's partly because of the fact that I simplified the wall tops so much. They basically don't really have much definition to them, opposed to the old ones, which had more like a mossy kind of grown in look. But that at least gets us close. So then I think it's just a matter of figuring out what the space is. Yeah, I think we actually get to building the castle now. So inside of here, we're essentially reusing the space of one of our other rooms. Let's delete this piece. And let's... another scene variation here, one that has free cam movement instead of locked into orthographic. Let's just make this a bit more boxy for the interior space here. And we might even want to just like narrow the whole space in general. Because this isn't meant to be like a huge room that you explore per se, as much as it's meant to be more just like a starting spot. Center. We need the statue, but we're gonna make a different version of the goddess statue for this. So instead of it being the standard one, which where even is the goddess statue? Is it a shared billboard that hasn't been converted yet? That's possible. There's a remodeled one I should be using. I guess it's technically kind of like room decor. And then I'm going to get rid of the remodel because that is good to have for the other folder, but by itself it should just be the goddess statue. Okay, and then let's run create props. And then we're going to need to reload the options in here, repopulate. Then we'll go to scene view. We're going to change this one, center, room decor, goddess statue. I want to see what that looks like. I was concerned about the shadows, but that actually isn't too bad, I don't think. Ooh, question. How's this gonna look if we say grab all of these ones? Let's change these to be wall 20 brick high, wall 20 brick high, and then have them all have a just wall top for now. And then we'll go through each of these. Let's give this one a inverse top. 30. Oh no, this one's only 20 pixels. So we just do 20 to kind of have that line up. And then we want to do south to flip it. So it's facing up this way. And then we go down the list. So this one gets 30. I wonder, how could I make that so it does auto, or how make it work with multi-select? Is there something quick I could do? Ah, the main difference here is we update the index value. How does the actual thing end up knowing that this has been modified? It doesn't? Or maybe I'm just doing this wrong then. Should I have a serialized property for each of the other ones then? This can be decal pixel height. And then that'll still be on the decal, but instead of option index, it would need to find the property pixel height, which option index was named poorly. That's why it doesn't have the M underscore in front of it. So it should be able to just do that. And we should be able to do the same thing again for direction, decal direction, which we will find the property. Which will be M direction. Put that there. And then instead of directly modifying the direction, can we just do this serialized property and this serialized property? Wait. Oh, I did them backwards. This should be here, and this should be here. Except this should be enum value? Do I need to now cast this to an int to work? Okay, we might have to go look at how to set this up. This one should be straightforward though. That should just be int value, same as the other ones. So because this is an enum, we need to figure out how to set that value. Float value, index value, long value. Integer representation of the enel property with mixed values. Enum, okay. I think this is the right one we should be setting. But it's coming back as an enum and we need to int? No, that doesn't work. We'd brought up a page on this before. But this doesn't give an example with a serialized property. They all output an enum. Well, let's just see what happens if we have this here, cast this to a direction. Oh, actually, maybe that's the approach? Okay, we'll try one more thing. We'll do decal direction dot enum index value index, and then we'll cast this to an integer, because we'll cast it from a system enum to a direction and then from a direction to an integer. I don't love the double cast. Maybe we add some brackets just for a little bit of extra security. Okay. Now, before we do anything else, does it still function or does it completely break? If we change this to 30, does it still go up? Not looking good. It did change the value though. Oh, it was just off camera because it's supposed to be 20. Okay, so that seems good. So let's change all of these to 20. Only changed the last one, but now is actually updating all of them. Okay. So then the next question is, does the directional stuff still work? So if we make this east, that updated, okay. And then what if we select others? Yes, it'll copy the data. You just have to re-click it once. The re-clicking is a bit odd, but I suppose it's because it doesn't know which editor to update in that situation. Because we're multi-editing and we call proptile.update, but we're selecting multiples at this point, so it doesn't know which target. Because we're probably multi-targeting. So if we can copy multiples, does this have any kind of data? I've never really used multi-target before. I've never really had a need to. So I guess the question is, do we have targets? We do. Okay, so what if we do for each targets. What would the typing be here? Object. So for each object in the targets, do we just cast it up here? We do. Try and get the prop tile out of it. Honestly, we don't need a reference to it. We just want to call update, so we can just do brackets dot update. Does that make our tools better? So if we change all these to be east, it still only modified the last one, it looks like. So still not 100% functional, but let's see how this is looking. Oh, we need to re-raycast, I guess? Not seeing any errors. There we go. Interesting. That's starting to feel more correct, but still not 100% accurate. Let's continue with the walls. So then this becomes a... Let's just change all of these to be walls. 20 bricks, because they're in front of us. Let's change them all to have just normal top ones, and most of them should be east facing, and they should all be set to 20. Then we just need to go back through and select each one to get the update correct, and then to update any corners. Ooh, this one's actually another corner type we don't have. This one should actually be potentially a inverse corner connector. It's probably fine though. South. Okay, and then we're going to select each of these ones. Let's get off of the widget for moving so that we don't accidentally move stuff. And then these are going to be 30 brick high. Yeah, this is just a little too long. The multi-select working helps quite a bit, but it's not 100% functional. I still feel like it's taking too long to input all this data. Some of my corners are not drawn very well either. That's not necessarily a problem with any of our parsing stuff here. It's just I didn't draw them very well. And then this one changes from a corner to an inverse corner. Yeah, I also didn't draw this one very well either, it doesn't look like. Although that could still be the corner not fully lining up. This one I think could fit better as a corner tile. Like that. Oh, it didn't save. I don't think that was a raycast problem, that was just a save issue. I actually really like this because it helps teach the player about moving forward in a really neat way, because it's so walled in that you have to take this exit. Actually, there was a task that Drixie wanted me to take a look at. Cool. I'm going to try something real quick. Let's come into... Ooh, which one do we want to work on? Let's open top work in progress. Let's make this all one color. And then let's reduce the transparency. Actually, I'm gonna go like not, let's keep it continuous, copy, paste. We're gonna kind of almost like create a gradient here. I did not paste this one correctly. I didn't paste this one either. What am I doing wrong here? Okay, I think that's okay-ish. This seems a little bit long. There's some weirdness about the way this is set up. Is that just because of the way the first ones are set up? 2, 2, 2, 2, 1. This one is one too long. That is, I think, what the problem is, and then everything else should be fine. Okay. Then we're going to grab the dark color and we're going to lower the transparency slowly. So we'll start at full transparency here. And we're going to turn continuous back on. Actually, how do I do this? Because I want to create transparency, but if I paste this, I'm just going to paste a color. I guess I do a new layer over top. Magic wand this section below, then select up a level, and then paste. And then I bring the transparency up a bit. Magic wand this layer, go back up a layer. I think that's working the way I want it to. Select this layer, grab here, move the transparency up a bit more, somewhere like there, paste that in. And we're just going to go along until we have a nice layer of slowly fade. And I guess once I have this set up, it'll be easier to modify the amount of transparency at each layer, because I won't have to do as much clicking back and forth. I feel like I may have went too quickly. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the last two layers are just darkness. Okay. Now we're going to save this out. We're going to put this in a new folder. Exit. We're going to name this Fade Work in Progress. I'm going to call it Wall just because I think I want to have it generate the inverse version of it as well. Okay. So now there's an exit tile here. If we do props, run, it makes a final version of that, which should have had a double lattice structure, which it does, although I'm not seeing any transparency here. Was there transparency in this version? There was, but there's no transparency in this version. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Our console amp rips all the transparency out, I think. Because we didn't want any pixel art to have any transparency because it creates some weird experiences sometimes. So we're going to need to put alpha in. So we do ISO to 3D. Does any of this other stuff get executed, like remove alpha? No, it should only come into this case statement. It should activate this. It's going to come in here. Yeah, and we're not doing actual color dot alpha. I don't know if this is what I want, but we're gonna try it. So let's rebuild. This may affect other things, like letting kind of alpha come through on the process. I think that added the alpha. Open. Yes, it did. Okay. So then, if we sprites to prop this, let's hit stop, save changes, come back into Unity Editor is upset with something I'm doing. Come back into here. We are not going far enough out with some of these, so we're going to need to add them. I think I can copy these like this. It might cause problems. So for fade, we're going to give this a decal option. We're going to choose Oh, we need to populate. Populate options. Okay, and then if we come back in here, bottom of the list, fade, add, exit, wall fade. Interesting. Not exactly doing what I would expect. That is the direction I would expect this to work in. To be fair, we haven't done a lot of transparency stuff. We can try running the game to see if it'll work a little differently, but I bet you that's probably just going to be a black square at the edge of the screen for some reason. Helps if I save and import everything. Yeah. To be fair, the pattern doesn't look quite right in here. Yeah, because we look at some of the other walls and stuff. They have more of this, like, central cubes with more outer lines on the edges. Whereas this definitely has more of, like, a crisscross pattern with the center looking more dark. Oh, you know what? I bet you because this is a prop and not actually a material, it's using this alpha clip version. So we need this to use the custom lit transparent version. Yeah. Okay, that is something we can make a change on a per tile basis. Whether or not that looks good is still debatable. It looks like it's a little high also. These could probably be moved down a little bit. And I think we are out of time today. Yeah. Okay. We got to end a little bit early. Yeah. I think we still made good progress. I'm going to continue working on building out the other 2 rooms we need for the tutorial in order to kind of build out this demon castle. There's also some weird artifacting with the shadows, which, I mean, they don't... If you don't know that it's because of the lattice structure, they don't look bad. It just looks like some weird shadowing effects on the floor. We might want to fill in the top of these transparent pixels so that it's just a solid texture for the shadows. Anyways, I'm gonna call it here. I think we made good progress. How's our stats looking on this? 106 set pass calls, which is not great, but we're still holding pretty steadily around 80 frames per second, and there's still more optimizations I can make even on like the UI side of some of it. So I'm not super concerned. This is about half of a level as like, and it's decked out pretty much with as many walls as we possibly could fit in here. And if we were to take a look, how is it rendering it? Okay, I'm gonna end, I swear. Just let me... I swear, chat. Chat, I swear. I know I said I was ending, but... This is adding all the walls, and yeah, it's going to add each one piece by piece, layer by layer. It is nice that it's doing some of the set pass calls together if they're like in line with each other. So that is cutting down a little bit. Interesting that it like, oh, it's having to alternate a bit between the top of the cells, and then also once we have different images for the bottom textures versus the top, we also start to slow down a bit. So one way that we could also optimize is if we added all of these individual textures into a sprite atlas. That would potentially increase the number of like batchings of set calls it does. So that might be something I look into as well. Maybe when we process the folder and generate all the prefabs, maybe we also convert all of them into like an atlas sheet at the same time. That might get tricky as we add and remove them, but at least for final shipping, we could probably do some sort of step there where we convert all the sprites that we're like, okay, this is everything that's going to be in this zone, Demon Lord Castle, Forest, whatever. Convert them all into a sprite atlas, and then that'll probably cut down some of the set pass calls as well. Again, they're going up, but it's not really seeming to affect our performance really much at all. They're also pretty simple calls. So yeah, it's a lot of individual set pass calls, but each one is, I think, pretty simple. We'll keep an eye on it. I think we're fine. For now, though, this is going to be Tolhi signing out. Later, folks.